I had a postcard that she sent to my dad shortly before he died saying thank you. And I showed that to her son. Her son then took over from him. He's still running the workshop now. So that's about 60 years later. And he said, well, yeah, thank you very much for what your dad did, encouraging my mum to start this. Her life would have been completely different if she hadn't done it. And my life would be too. And because that's his career, he makes violins and he teaches others to make violins. So I just wanted to give that as an example. I don't know how my dad did that, probably through words and just saying, you can do this. But that changed the course in a way of her life and her son's life, some encouragement. So encouragement's really, really powerful. I wanted to take us to an encourager that we can see in the Bible. There's a man called Barnabas. Does anybody know what Barnabas means? What Barnabas's name means? Thank you. Yeah, son of encouragement. You'll find that out in Acts 4:36, and it tells us that. So his name, actually, I think they gave him that name probably because he was such an encourager, because he's also known as Joseph. So we see, I'm not going to tell you the whole story of Saul. Most of you must probably know that. Saul was going around persecuting Christians and killing them on behalf of the Jewish authorities. And then he had the Damascus Road encounter with Jesus, where he was blinded and so on. And then he became a Christian. He started to follow Jesus. But initially, the other Christians were pretty wary of him because he'd been going around killing Christians. And after he had this conversion, he went to, let me just get the right verse. This is in Acts chapter 9, starting at 26. So he has been preaching about God, but he now comes to Jerusalem preaching about Jesus. And it says in verse 26, when he came to Jerusalem, he tried to join the disciples, but they were all afraid of him, not believing that he really was a disciple. But Barnabas took him and brought him to the apostles. Barnabas told them how Saul on his journey had seen the Lord and that the Lord had spoken to him, and how in Damascus he had preached fearlessly in the name of Jesus. So Saul stayed with them and moved about freely in Jerusalem, speaking boldly in the name of the Lord. So again, we see here Barnabas standing behind Saul. The others weren't sure about him. And Barnabas steps up and says, no, gets behind him and encourages the other disciples to believe in him and let's all have a go. And obviously we see how important that is. But as we continue reading through Acts, we see Barnabas is with Saul on his first journeys. He's there supporting and encouraging him. Barnabas isn't that well-known a figure in the Bible, but whereas Saul, who becomes Paul, is and wrote a third of the New Testament, becomes a very well-known person. But again, can you see how important it was just for this man? Often the encouragers are not people who everybody's heard of. They're the ones who encourage and they release. So I want us to all think about how we can be encouragers. In a few minutes, we're going to have a bit of time to be able to encourage one another. Okay. Just give you one more example of Barnabas. You see he's encouraging. He gets sent to Antioch, where the church is just emerging and growing, and believers from the Gentiles are coming to know Jesus. So they send Barnabas to Antioch. This is in chapter 11. When Barnabas arrived and saw the evidence of the grace of God, he was glad and encouraged them all to remain true to the Lord with all their hearts. So Barnabas is a real encourager. Okay, there are various different verses in the New Testament exhorting us to encourage each other. In 1 Thessalonians 5, verse 11, it says, therefore, encourage one another and build each other up, just as in fact you are doing. In Hebrews 3:13, but encourage one another daily, as long as it is called today, so that none of you may be hardened by sin's deceitfulness. Well, I don't know exactly what that means, I have to say, but so that none of you may be hardened by sin's deceitfulness, my understanding is that we can all feel quite discouraged, right? And deception is of the enemy, of the devil, and comes through sin. I would just say we can believe a lot of lies about ourselves, right? So we can think, I'm not good enough to do this, I haven't got what it takes. So that is why the writer to the Hebrews is saying you need to encourage one another daily to come against all those lies. So we need that encouragement, saying daily. So every day we need encouragement from each other. Hebrews 10:24-25 says, and let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds. Let us not give up meeting together as some are in the habit of doing, but let us encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. Again, exhortation to encourage one another, and seems to be associated with meeting together. He says, let us not give up meeting together, but let us encourage one another. So that seems to be an important part of being able to encourage one another, is meeting with each other. And Paul says that again when he talks to the Romans, in the letter to the Romans, I long to see you so that I may impart to you some spiritual gift to make you strong. That is, that you and I may be mutually encouraged by each other's faith. Again, he wants to see them so he can encourage them. So that is a big part of coming together on a Sunday, is encouraging one another, seeing each other during the week, encourage each other. So think about how you can encourage each other. Okay, we're going to have some time now and to encourage each other. So what I want you to think, Tony gave me this example, which was helpful, and you've got some paper on your tables, and I want you to kind of get a piece of paper and a pen and choose someone on your table. If it's someone you don't know very well, then it will be, in some ways it will be a bit easier to do this if you know the person a bit better. But if you don't, I'm sure God can show you things about that person that you can encourage them. It could be something as simple as when you smile, that brings encouragement. So this is an example for Tony. You could say Tony is always willing to help people by giving lifts, visiting in a crisis, and pointing people in the right direction. He's very organised and reliable. I see Jesus working through him and his gifts. So that's one example. But just take a bit of time now. We've got time. Okay, we've got about 10 minutes, and basically going to use the rest of our time together to do this. So just take a bit of time and write down. Choose someone on your table. Write down in a few sentences some things that you think will bring encouragement, and then I'll give you sort of 3 or 4 minutes to do that, and then you can read those out. If you're happy to do that, read one by one to each person on the table. So the other person can really be encouraged. Okay, so let's take some time to do that. Okay, guys, in the break on the Zoom, we're inviting you to join a breakout room to do this together.